Hello everyone, in this video I have scrapbook process 66 to share with you. For this one I'm using the very beautiful Kaisercraft Misty Mountains collection, and this one is a, I suppose you could call it a sunburst layout. I've been seeing these all over the place on Instagram and YouTube recently, and I really wanted to do my own, and then I remembered I had the perfect picture for it. The picture is of my nephew Finley, who, well, he's 9 now, but he would have been 7 or nearly 8 or just turned 8, that kind of age in this photo. But I'll talk about the photo and the title I use in a minute. But yes, what I did here is just on a 12 by 12 piece of white cardstock, I have freehand just drawn the, you know, the sun shape and the sun beams. It did take me a while. I kept erasing it and then redoing it, but eventually I got the shapes I wanted. So yes, I said just freehand drew those. Did use a ruler, obviously, to make a straight line. And then I'm going to cut those out, and then I am going to poke my holes in and then stitch around the edges of every single one of these little separate pieces. I did on the back of them put numbers on them in order, so I knew where the right, you know, when it came to putting them down on my layout, they would go in the right order. Because even though when you look at it, it would look like it would be obvious, not for Grace. Grace makes lots of mistakes. There was one paper in this collection, which is this one, which I've forgotten the name of, that's my bad. But this one that's like, just like this hazy lilac-y pink with all of like these bright circles on. It looks just like you've done like distress oxide all over it and then sprinkled water on it, but it's not. It's just the way the paper looks. But that was just the perfect paper for this sort of sunburst layout. But yes, as I said, I stitched around the edges of every separate little beam and part of the sun. The reason is I just go in with white thread for this. I did it for the texture, really. It just added a nice amount of texture, and yes, that's why I did it, really. And a lot of you guys always say to me, oh, I don't know how you have the patience to do all this stitching and fussy cutting and stuff. Seriously, guys, I just sit back and watch Netflix or something while I do it. And yeah, so, you know, watching Netflix is something I'm going to do anyway, so I might as well do something to keep my hands busy at the same time. And sad face, I had a series I've been binge watching while doing all my stitching and fussy cutting, and I finished it. It was Bates Motel that I was watching when I did all my stitching and fussy cutting, and now I've finished it, and now what do I do when I'm fussy cutting and stitching? I don't know what to do. So yes, anyway, that was irrelevant. But yes, I've shown an awful lot of the stitching in this video. But yes, once that was done, I was just figuring out where on the layout, you know, all the sun bits were supposed to go, as it were. And then I'm going to use these stamps for my title, just in that top little section there between two of the sunbeams. Those stamps, I'm pretty sure, are from the Paige Evans Pick Me Up collection. And I'm going to stamp out my title here. So the title is Maybe It's God Showing Us a Little Bit of Heaven, but that is not the full quote. So it was basically the picture of my nephew. He was sat on his mum's bed in the morning looking out the window, and for some context, this was last year, towards the beginning of the year. As I'm sure you all know, there was 3 nasty terrorist attacks in this country, especially the Manchester one that hit us all really hard because, you know, it was kids, and then there was the 2 ones in London, and it was just, well, not in that order, but that's not the point. But anyway, Finley, in his childlike wisdom, was looking out the window with the sun beaming into the room, and he said, "Mum, you know how it's so sunny this week? Maybe it's God showing us a little bit of heaven because we're all so sad." And there was this atmosphere in the country, I'm sure, because I know a lot of my views and subs are UK based, so I'm sure a lot of you remember it. There was this atmosphere that obviously the kids were picking up on, and yeah, and I don't think it really matters personally whether you believe in God or not. It is just the sweetest and most precious thing for a kid to say, and I just thought it was wonderful, and I just wanted to document it. And I've had the picture lying around for ages waiting to be scrapbooked, and I just thought this was the time to do it. Now, I thought about having the entire quote on the layout in between all of the sunbeams, but I think it just would have looked a bit too jumbled and messy. I think it would have been, you know, just a bit, I couldn't think of a way to make it work, so I just decided to stick with that short bit. And then on the back of the layout, I have a little bit of journaling, which I haven't shown you, but just a little card which says like just the info about it and then the full quote of what he said. So yes, there it is there. Now I did use my StazOn stone grey ink there, and you just saw the G at the end of showing didn't stamp very nicely, so I just used a grey pen. I think it was a Stabilo or a Statler. I can never remember which one's which on those ones, but the fine point felt tip ones, just used a dark grey one of those to just fill it in, because, you know, unless you're using like as proper stampy, like a Misty or something, you're never going to get the stamp back in the right place again. So yes, so all my sunbeam and the sun itself, they all went down with some foam. What I did was I used double-sided tape on the back of them, and when you're putting double-sided tape over something that's a bit textured, so all of that stitching and the washi tape that's keeping the stitching down, just put your double-sided tape down and then use a bone folder just to sort of go over that double-sided tape before you take the backing off, and then it's just not going to get all lifty-uppy around the washi tape and the stitching and stuff, if that makes any sense. Then I put my foam tape on the top, and then I used some tacky glue to actually stick them down, just so I would be able to move them slightly just in case I needed to if I put them down in the wrong place, which does happen a lot to me. And then from here on out, it's basically an awful lot of embellishing using all these beautiful bits from this collection. I'd backed my photo just with a couple of bits that are from the 6x6 paper pad. Well, not 6x6, 6.5 by 6.5, but that's a bit of a mouthful. And then like that little sort of border thing I'm using there, that's again from that pad, because as I'm sure you know, the Kaisercraft pads, they have like some die cut bits towards the end that you can pull out, and some little phrases and sentiments and stuff. So yeah, I just needed to fill up that gap between the top of the picture and the bottom of the quote / title. And from here on out, as I said, it's just an awful lot of embellishing. I'm using a mix of the die cut pack. I've got some fussy cut flowers, the blue flowers, not the ones you can see on screen at the moment. Those are from the collectibles pack. But my layout I did with this like a month, 2 months ago. I don't know, it was a while, but I had some fussy cut pieces left, so I'm going to use, there's one of them there. I'm going to use those as well, just because I had them to hand. So I'm starting off putting all the bits that are going to go behind the photo before I stick the whole lump down, because usually what I would do is just put my adhesive like in the very center of the photo and then tuck stuff underneath, but because it was going to go on top of stuff where there's things at different levels, it would make life a little bit too complicated to do that. So yes, and then I put a couple more embellishments at the top left of the photo just because it looked a bit fleur. That's not a word, but you know what I mean, just a bit fleur. And then I did use some foam just to have those raised up at the same level. I did lose a little bit of footage there, and I can't remember why. Probably just my camera cut out, but it was basically just a load of embellishment, really. You've got that "You Are Loved" sentiment, which I don't remember where it was from, but I just backed it to make it stick out a little bit more. There's the blessed. I put at the bottom right there's like just a little cluster there. I basically wanted just a little cluster of something in every single sunbeam gap, I suppose you could call it. And then yes, and put like at the bottom right of the photo, there's like a lovely flower sticking out and stuff. So yes, I got that So Sweet, which is from the paper that has all the foiled like words and sentiments on. I just cut that out and I backed it as well, just as I said, to help it stand out. Used another fussy cut piece to go behind that, and I'm just going to add a few more little embellishments here and there. I've got that thing at the bottom, start each day with a grateful heart. I thought that was appropriate because it happened in the morning, and you know, it kind of relates to the whole thing. And then I'm going to just finish off with lots and lots of Nuvo drops. I'm going to be using, oh, I've forgotten the colours. Oh, I'm so sorry. They will be in the description box, the colours I've used. I usually write this stuff down and have like notes ready for when I do my voiceover, but I forgot. I'm so sorry. But as I said, they will be in the description box. So I'm just putting loads of those on, just like little embellishments. I just love my Nuvo drops. And I put lots around my title just to help that stand out a little bit more. You can still see the picture very much as the main element, but I wanted the title just to have that little bit of look at me, look at me. And there we are. I am finished, so thank you so much for watching. I will put links to everything in the description box, as I always say. I bet you're sick of me saying that, aren't you? Yep, yeah you are. Please leave me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. It really helps me out. A comment should you have anything to say or any questions or anything. And yes, okay, thank you so much again. I am now going. Bye bye!